Hey, good people, how you doing? David Taub here, co-creator of NextLevelGuitar.com. Hope all is well, and thank you for joining us. And I want to welcome you to another session of Guitar Gab. Here, this is where we I answer questions that you, the good people, write in and want to know about. We talk about things you want to learn about or things you might have questions about. And if you have any questions, guitar, music related, certainly put them in the YouTube comment box below, and I will read the comments, and that's where we pull content for these video sessions. And I appreciate everyone writing in, and I've been getting some great feedback and insight and great topics for future videos in this series. So thank you to you, the good people. Today's topic is how to find a good private instructor for music lessons, mainly guitar lessons, but a lot of this is, pretty broad as far as how to find a good teacher. What are the critical elements needed for a good music teacher? And I want to give a shout out to the good people, two of them, for writing in, for suggesting this topic. I want to send a thanks out to Jeff G, and also a thanks to Brian Juarez. Thanks, guys. They posted in a previous video, or one of the last few videos, hey, how about doing a video on helping how to find a good private teacher. It's a common question, and I get that question a lot from students. How do I go about finding a really good qualified private instructor for teaching guitar? And if you talk to any guitar players who've been playing a while who have studied privately and ask them, how many private teachers have you gone to? Oftentimes you'll find the answer is, I've been to 3, 5, 6 different instructors, had to weed out a bunch of them till I found the right one, that right combination of a teacher who had the right amount of knowledge, the right abilities, at the right level to teach me what I wanted to know and to get my playing to the next level, right? It's hard to find. Good teachers are hard to find. I personally believe that teaching is an art. And just remember this, that just because someone is a good guitar player doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be a good teacher. It requires a whole different set of skills. And I've been teaching guitar a long time, and my skills have developed over the many, many years as I keep trying to put out the best lessons possible, the best teaching possible. I take my teaching very seriously, and that's what you want to find in a private instructor, someone who takes what they do very seriously. And it requires a lot of ability to be a good teacher. You have to really have good communication skills, ability to communicate with the student, as well as good listening skills, ability to listen to the student. You have to have good organizational skills to organize all of these concepts. You have to have the ability to explain, technical and challenging concepts and break them down and explain them in a way that's easily understandable and digestible to the student. Not an easy task, and it's challenging. You have to be able to have the ability to, good teachers have the ability to put themselves in the student's shoes. And I often ask that of myself, and I'm always asking myself that question. Like, if I'm watching this from a student, I'll take a video I've done or a private lesson, and if I'm watching this on the other end from a student, does this make sense, right? Let me put myself in the student's shoes. Is this making sense to them? They have to have patience. A good guitar teacher will have a lot of patience with students. And good guitar teachers will also have the abilities to empower students and motivate them. And good teachers will also have the ability to take students to a level that they didn't think possible, right? To really help them reach their guitar goals. And that's what it's all about. The student has to be able to see measurable progress, or else you could just go to another teacher, right? So those are some of the qualities that you want to look for. In a minute, I'm going to give you a bunch of questions that you want to ask prospective teachers. Something to keep in mind that I think a lot of people forget is that, remember that a private teacher is working for you. You are shelling out your hard-earned cash, your hard-earned dollars. You're plunking down on the table, and you want a teacher that is going to listen to you, take what you want to learn, right, as well as things that most guitar players need to learn along the way, and roll that up into an individualized curriculum that's just for you. See, I am not a fan of cookie cutter lessons. And as soon as you start talking to a teacher, and if the word cookie cutter comes up, which it probably won't, but if it sounds like they're just spinning the same lesson over and over and over again, then you want to move on to the next teacher. Cookie cutter lessons need to be avoided. No good. Red flag. You want a good teacher that's going to come up with an individualized plan for you and your goals, someone that's going to hold you accountable for the materials too. So if you come in there and you're not doing the work, they're going to be like, hey, you need to get this down before we could move on. You want a teacher that's going to hold you accountable, because that's how you're going to get to the next level. Someone that's going to push you to the next level. I'm not saying push you to make you feel uncomfortable, but push you musically and challenge you and hold you accountable, and have that structure, right? That's what you really need. So what I do a lot with private students is, the first lesson is I just sit down with them for 20 minutes additional at the beginning, and I kind of assess where they're at on the instrument. It takes a little while. I got to talk to them. They got to play. We have to jam a little bit. I got to find out where they're at on the instrument. I ask them a series of questions to find out what their current knowledge base is. And I ask them, what are your guitar goals? Where do you see yourself going on the guitar? What do you want to get to the point to be able to do on the instrument? Do you want to be able to play in a band? Do you want to be able to jam with your friends? Do you want to just be able to sit and play songs? Do you want to be able to, teach music someday, or study music in college? What are your goals? It's very important questions that a private teacher should be asking you about where you want to take the instrument. And then they take all that information, a good teacher, and they come up with an individualized lesson plan just for you. And they're going to work on that. Good teachers, it's a lot of work. It requires good lesson planning, and they should be planning these lessons ahead of time. Over and over and over, I see, or I hear about students that sit in a lesson for an hour, and in most of the lesson, the instructor's just sitting there writing down stuff and writing down the lesson. That stuff should all be prepared ahead of time. The teacher knows where you're at, knows what they're going to be working on that day, and they should have a lot of it written out for you already. So you're not just sitting there wasting your time during the lesson writing stuff out. The other thing is, I like hour lessons, because a lot of teachers teach half-hour lessons, and I think by the time you sit down, get going, tune up, and then you discuss any questions you had from the previous week or 2 weeks or month or whenever you were there last, that's already 15 minutes are gone by. So half hours burn through very quickly. I think hour is the way to go. And the best or better teachers are usually a little bit more expensive. You shouldn't be looking for bargain price lessons, because you'll eventually pay more in the end, because you're going to be frustrated, and you're not going to be getting what you want out of the lessons. Generally, good teachers are generally a little more expensive, and some have waiting lists. So it's you get what you pay for. I'm not saying you have to go for the most expensive teacher, but really consider paying a little bit more, because in the end it'll save you a lot of frustration. Plus, you'll be learning a lot more. You'll be getting a lot more value for your money. And I hope this lesson will help you, so you don't have to weed through 5 or 6 teachers. Sometimes it does take a while to find that right chemistry. A good teacher also has the ability to make you feel comfortable. When you're sitting in that chair, of course you're going to be a little bit nervous, but you want to at least feel comfortable and not have that awkwardness. Maybe at first, but after a little while, they should be able to take that away. And it should be an enjoyable experience, and one in which you're going to hopefully learn an incredible amount, will open all kinds of new doors and new musical possibilities, no matter what instrument you play. I might be specifically talking about guitar, but these are broad-based things, qualities that teachers, in my opinion, these qualities they should have. So much about finding the right teacher is about that chemistry. It kind of is the same concept like I tell everybody I talk to who's going to college, right? I say, it's so important that you find out about who's teaching the class, and not just sign up based on what time the class is or how it fits into your schedule. Because that teacher, you're getting that philosophy, you're getting their philosophy, and it's so important that you find out a bit about them. You got to get into the student center and just start talking to people. Hey, what teacher is really, really good for such and such a class, or who should I avoid, or what teachers do you recommend and why? So important, because man, sitting there a whole semester in front of a teacher who you're really not too happy with, that's a long semester, right? So it's the same thing. You really have to do your homework, and you really have to research potential teachers, right? Because it's going to save you time in the long run. One thing right off the bat I could tell you to avoid is if within the first time, usually what happens is you find out this person's teaching and you want to take lessons and you call them up, right? And that first conversation on the phone or you'll email them is very important. And if you hear this, something like the teacher says, well, bring me a few songs and I'll teach you how to play them. Right off the bat, that's something that you want to probably move on to the next teacher, because song-based teaching, in my opinion, is not the way to go. You want to learn how to play guitar. You want to learn, or whatever instrument you want to learn, right? But you want to learn all the techniques, all the things that go into playing the instrument. You want to learn a little bit about the theory. You want to learn about, for instance, with the guitar, about, chords and structure, and you want to learn about, if you're a beginner, you want to learn strumming and strum patterns and changing chords, or maybe if you're a lead player, you want to learn about scales and why they work and arpeggios and jamming over progressions, or whatever aspect that really excites you about guitar. You want to learn what goes into that, not just to play a few songs. And if you find a good teacher that's going to teach you the things that you need to know, you'll be able to play any song. So the goal is not just to learn a few songs. What good is that, right? You could just look online and find the tabs to songs and teach yourself how to play them. That's not the way to learn guitar. Songs are good and they're important, don't get me wrong, but I prefer to use them as a vehicle. And I use songs in my private lessons, but I use them more as a way for students to practice their chord changing, to practice their timing, to practice their rhythm, to practice learning new chords. I could sit there and write out chord changes all day, but it's nice to have it in the context of a song. It makes it more motivating when you're done. The perk is you learn a song. But just learning songs as a way of teaching guitar, personally, I think there's better ways. So if that comes up, that's something you probably want to avoid early on. You don't want to just learn songs. You want to use the songs as vehicles to practice, and in the end, you want to be able to play any song or most songs. That's, in my opinion, the way to go. So let me give you some questions that you can ask a potential teacher. And again, you want to do your homework. You really want to do your research. And we'll start off with the obvious ones. The first thing you want to ask is how long you've been teaching, because you want someone who's experienced. You want someone who has their teaching methodology and pediology dialed in. Obviously, you want to ask them, where they got their music training from, right? You want to ask them what levels do they teach, because if you're an advanced player, you might not want to go to an intermediate teacher, or if you're an intermediate, you might not want to go to a beginner. These are kind of obvious ones at first. You also want to ask them what styles they teach. If you mainly want to learn blues, you may not want to go to, a guy who solely teaches metal. Or if you want to learn, classical guitar, you're not going to necessarily go to a bluesman, right? You want to kind of find the guy who's fitting into, the guy or girl who's fitting into the genres or genres that you want to learn. Again, that's pretty basic, but you want to ask them, what styles do you mainly teach? And a lot of teachers will teach many styles. How many students do you currently have? Do you do this full-time or is this part-time? Right? You want to find out, how often are they doing this? Is something they really have dialed in. You want to ask them, do they have a website? A lot of teachers do, and a lot of teachers will have sample lessons on their website, which is awesome if you could find that, because then you could review those lessons and you could get a little taste of what their teaching is like. Having that website, having those sample lessons, and on there might be testimonials from other students, lesson plans written up, and that does give the teacher some degree of legitimacy, right? And you could check that out before. So if they have that, that's great. Go to that website and be thorough and check it out. Ask them, do you come up with individualized learning lesson curriculums per each student? Ask them, or do you just ask them flat out? Do you just give cookie cutter lessons? Does every student get the same lesson? Ask them a little bit about how they determine what the individualized curriculum is, what they put into that. Ask them, do they have a lot of the lessons? Will they have them pre-planned, written out, a lot of the stuff, so they're not just sitting there writing all day during your lesson time? One of the most important things you could ask them is ask them for some references. Ask them for some references of some current or former students that you can contact, and then you can ask them about his teaching. This is critical, and this is a must-do. And if any teacher cannot provide any references or will not, then walk away and go to the next one, because if you're a good teacher, You're going to have students, and you're teaching a lot, you're going to have students asking that. You're going to have references available. It's like asking for references, at a job interview. Everybody asks for references. It's a standard. You're not insulting them asking for that. And if they take it as an insult, then you want to go to another teacher. So ask them for references, and then contact those references and ask them these questions and ask them about their experiences with that said teacher. How long did they study for them? How long did they study with them? How did they feel they did with their individualized curriculum? Did they feel that they benefit? What are his strengths? What are their weaknesses? Would they recommend them as a teacher? And any good teacher will be more than happy to provide references with some of his students. And like I said, if they have a website, you might even be able to look up that information online. This is critical. You have to talk to some of their previous or current students. Get those references and check them out. Ask them also, do they give written reference materials with their lessons, or audio files, or CDs of jam tracks, or things like that? What accessories come along with the lessons? Because they should be giving those things out. A lot of them, like what I do for my students, is I'm not going to sit there and draw out scales when I have those already drawn out, and I could have them printed up for them for the lesson, and then just hand them the paper. Okay, you're going to study this scale this week and this one. Again, that stuff should be printed beforehand, and a good organized teacher will have done that. So you want to ask them, do you give out printed materials? Do you give out, audio files? How do I contact you if I have questions? Are you available through email, or should I call you? Because if you have questions in between your lesson time, you want to be able to that's part of the deal. You want to be able to, get hold of your teacher, and instead of going, 2 weeks before the next lesson, not knowing if you're doing something right, you want to be able to ask them and be able to contact them. And also ask them, do you give out practice regimens or practice routines? That's pretty important. When you leave that private lesson, you should have a list of things. It should be very clear the things that you should be practicing and working on. I call it like a practice routine, and I always write that out for my students with arrows saying, okay, you need to be working on this, 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 and this by, the next time I see you, see if you can have this down clean from the beginning to the end. Should be very clear cut. The teacher should be setting clear cut goals for you, obtainable goals, short term and long term. And a good teachers will do that, and you'll see that progress, right? So you want to ask them, will I be leaving with a practice routine? Or you're just leaving it up to the student, what do I practice? That should be very, very clear. And this way you know what you're going to be working on in between lessons. Keep in mind, like I said at the beginning, they work for you, right? You're the one shelling out the money. So you have to make sure that you're getting your dollar's worth, and you want to ensure that, this is a worthwhile experience for you, and that they are, taking you to where you want to go on the guitar. That's why it's so important to do your research and to really look into these private instructors, because unfortunately, there's a lot of mediocrity in the teaching world. And I think part of the reason the attrition rate is so high with guitar is because of that mediocrity, because teachers aren't empowering students enough, or maybe they're not experienced enough or teaching in the right ways. So the student gets discouraged and they're not able to do what they want on guitar, and they end up putting it down. There is some a lot of truth in, hey, there's no such thing as a bad student, right? Teachers say, student do, only bad teachers. As long as the student is practicing their instrument, picking it up and practicing it, and has that structured plan, right, and is being honest about practicing, they should be seeing progress. And it's a shame, because a lot of times in my private teaching, I might have a student sitting in front of me, and I ask them, how many teachers have you been to? 4 or 5. Tell me about it. Tell me about some of your experiences, I ask them. And a lot of them aren't good. And they, they're really discouraged. And it's a shame. The guitar is a difficult instrument, and just getting over the physics of it, if you're just starting, is challenging. And that's why good teachers really need to, be motivating, empowering, be compassionate about that, and understand that, different students uptake information at different levels, right? Some people take it in really quick, and they take to the instrument really quickly. And other students, it takes a while. They're maybe not not as quick to get the chord fingerings down, or not as quick to get a lead pattern down, or it just takes them longer. And I think part of the problem is a lot of really good guitar players, they might think that, everybody should be, not everybody is as good as they are. You know what I mean, on the instrument. So they might think, they might think that, hey, why isn't this student getting this? I showed it to him 10 times. What's the problem? I got it the first time. I mean, not everyone's as great as you, and, good teachers understand that. Just my opinions. I hope these points will help you in your search for a private teacher. Your experience taking private lessons should be, an awesome time, and it's exciting and empowering, and a good teacher, man, you won't be able to get home fast enough to practice and to start learning these things. So I wish you the best of luck. Please, if you have any questions, or if you want me to discuss other topics, or you want to learn about something else in these Guitar Gab sessions, please put a comment in the comment box below. I will read them. Let me know. This is why I'm doing this, to answer your questions. And please go to our website, nextlevelguitar.com. It's a full-on structured curriculum for beginners, intermediates, advanced players, all genres of music. Now there's like over 1,550 lessons on there. I'm going to add like another 50 or 60 this week, actually. I have a lot of work to do. I'm getting to it, though. I'm chipping away at it. But go to the website. There's a 3-day free all access pass on the homepage. So you can check out the site for 3 days. I've taught hundreds of thousands of students all over the world through that website. And it's a great way to learn online. So check it out. Give the site a good test drive, right? As always, keep putting those guitars in your hands every day. Remember, your guitar playing is an evolution, right? So enjoy the journey. Take care. I'll see you next time, and keep on rocking.